Welcome back to Chewing Your Pens.
Or clicking your pens. We don't discriminate.
Today, we are going to be talking about settings. Part 1. This is going to be a 2-part podcast. You're getting part 1. Don't you feel lucky? Hey! Supposed to be professional.
I'm sorry.
This is the best way to start off a podcast. Part 1 of 2 parts. Don't you feel lucky? Alright, never mind. So yeah, our topic of today is settings in fictional type stories. So, the first part, we're going to be talking about different settings in different genres and how they work for those genres very well. And then in part 2, we're going to be talking about how to construct your own settings based off of what we talked about in part 1. Okay? Okay.
Well,
Don't you feel lucky? That's 3 times now. I think I'm done.
I think you're good. I think you're good.
Did I get it across to them? Do they feel lucky? Are they lucky? They're getting lucky.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's just go now.
So, since we're talking about settings, which genre would you like to begin with?
Let's begin with, what is our list?
I have mystery / horror, or them by themselves, romance, paranormal, fantasy, or YA in general.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So that one was paranormal. That was paranormal. Okay. Got it.
So, when thinking about a paranormal story, what are the elements that the setting needs?
I like it when, I read paranormal stuff. It starts off very normal, and then it slowly gets freaky.
Becomes paranormal?
Yeah, it starts normal, and then it becomes
normal?
para.
Nor para. Nor paranor.
Yeah. Perfect. It just it makes it you kind of how they're not the best movies, the Paranormal Activity movies. Everything kind of starts off sort of normal. You see their life and you see how things are going. But then as it progresses, it gets more and more messed up. More and more weird things start happening, and I think that is better. So I like it when it's just in one setting of just a house, and you just have it just slowly accelerates into just madness.
The setting for paranormal stuff would be
a house.
Normal things, like a small town, a house, a simple setting, and because of the events that happen, it becomes not normal.
The more simple the setting is, I feel like it makes the paranormal stuff even more ridiculous and even more frightening or whatever. So
why do you think that is? Why do you think a simple setting with ghosts in it instead of maybe a bustling hospital with ghosts in it would be different?
Well, there's
successful.
If you're in a bustling hospital and there's constant things happening, you can miss stuff. And so there'll be a creepy thing happening in the corner, but you're so focused on the dude who's dying of heart failure or something that you just don't even notice the corner ghost over there. When you're in a house and the main focus is finding those paranormal things, it becomes the main focus of what you're looking for. So you see that stuff, and it's way scarier, I guess, when it actually happens,
because you're actually anticipation.
Yeah, you're actually looking for it. So when it does happen, it's more jolting and a bit more frightening. And then, like I said, when it gets to that really crazy stuff at the end, it's all over the place. It's just everything. Your mind is focused solely on that. So your adrenaline starts going, and you don't even you're not worried about the background, because the background is there to help the paranormal crap that's happening. Indeed. Perfect.
Perfect.
Yes.
I love your answer.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Indubitably.
Yes. Good sir. Good show.
Yes. Very, very nice.
Indeed, sir. Indeed. Anyway.
Moving on. Quickly, before this gets out of hand.
Oh, I could do this for hours. So, okay, since we did paranormal, what's the difference between a paranormal setting and a horror setting?
Well, that's an interesting question.
See, I like that you pointed out in like paranormal stuff where it like a simple setting will make it scarier, and in horror I think that's the same thing too, but the setting has to be like cut off.
Yeah.
You know? That when if it's like in Paranormal Activity, they bring in a demonologist and like they call their friends and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they have connections to the outside world. In horror movies, like
you're cut off.
You're in the woods.
Yeah.
You're like in a cabin and you're with some friends and everyone just keeps dying, or you try to call the police or they're in on it.
Yeah. That's usually what happens.
So the setting, I think, works better in a horror if you're cut off. In a paranormal, you don't necessarily need to be cut off because the demon's going to kill all of you anyway. It doesn't care who you bring in.
If you bring in somebody, he's more likely to kill you than he was originally. Like, yeah, that's what I think makes good horror, is if, like, you feel helpless along with the characters in the book.
Yeah.
Like, if they lost their phone, they have I hate the no reception thing. I like it better when they just lose their phone altogether, because the no reception thing I don't know why, but
there's reception like everywhere now.
Yeah. It totally throws me out of, like, the story, because it's, like, bringing in...
Well, yeah, also, it's one of those tropes that's been used how many times?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I strongly prefer it if, like, they just lose it, but I don't like it when, like, it's just stated and, like, I lost my phone. Like, I like actually seeing them lose their phone.
Yeah, like, I don't know, they're on top of a cliff and they're about to, like, swerve around the bad guy and make it, but their phone goes flying off the edge.
Or, like, how it starts is they get in a car accident and their phone gets, like, thrown out the window or something, like,
now
something.
It's in a cornfield with like, wild dogs in it.
Yeah, like, you see it actually get lost. I don't like, because that also takes me out of the movie. Just, like, that was it. That it makes me feel like that wasn't planned, and they needed a reason why they couldn't call for help. And so they just threw it in really fast. But, like, everybody has a phone, so I feel like it should just be, like, a normal thing now.
So all 4 friends have to lose their phone.
Yeah, pretty much. Something has to happen.
Even if, like, just your battery dies.
Yeah, something
that's horrifying in that situation. It's like calling and they pick up and then your phone dies. Like...
Yeah, like, that would be so perfect. That would just instantly be like, oh, okay, we're screwed. Great.
We just had help if they picked up 2 seconds earlier.
Yeah. If I had thought to call maybe, like, 5 seconds ago, we'd be great.
Exactly. So,
but, like,
so setting-wise,
it's like...
isolation is key.
Yeah. Being, like, if you feel, like, if the whole goal, I think, is horror, is to make the reader feel as the characters do, as helpless and as terrified as the characters do. Even if it's revealing something that the evil guy is doing, and you're just like, holy shit, people are about to die in a bad way. Like, something like Alpha that. I also like it when it's, like, in a very, like, isolated town, and all of the people living in the town, the way they talk to you makes it feel like they're in on it, because then you just feel even more terrified, because you're just like, I can't ask for help from anybody, because literally they're going to try and kill me to help the thing.
Exactly. Like, even though there's people around you, you're still isolated in, like, your goal to survive.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, like, it's very common to do stuff in, like, a forest and, like, or a haunted wood, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I like it when, like, it branches out to, like, a full town, because then it, like, feels like it's, like, even though there's so much space, you're still just as isolated.
Even though you're surrounded by familiar things, you're still alone.
Yeah, you're still completely terrified and completely alone, and something is still trying to kill you. And you're pretty certain that the person who runs the inn is also trying to kill you.
Yep. Everyone's trying to kill you.
Yeah, that's just horror. Everyone's trying to kill you, and if the reader needs to basically feel that. Like, it's easier to do it in movies because, like, they have the music and all this stuff. But, like, it's just, like, in books it's a little bit harder because you have to, really write your characters very well and really write the setting very well, because the setting will make or break a horror movie or
Yeah,
a
exactly.
horror
You
book
have
for
to
you.
not only state, we're isolated, I lost my phone, but you have to show like the ramifications
Yeah,
of all that
yeah, you have
through
to
the
like
setting.
exactly like you notice that this isolated town, like there's no phones. There's not even a landline phone because there's nothing anywhere.
They're
Like
like
so, like,
Amish.
they're like the Amish. Oh,
I mean, they could
and I
be. That would be scary too. You
yeah.
get to an Amish town and they're like, sorry? What do you mean, monster?
Maybe you should pray.
Come, child. No.
I'd rather not.
Anyway.
But like something, this isn't really setting wise, but it's like just when writing horror, make sure your characters aren't stupid, because that bugs me a lot as well. Like I just with how many I loved Cabin in the Woods because it made fun of all of the shitty.
And it was still like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was like plot twist kind of a thing. But like there's just so many horrible horror movies, and I feel like there should be no character ever now that comes out that doesn't know what to do in a horror situation.
I know, that's why Scream was so good.
Yeah.
Like, they followed all the rules and it still died.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they did all the things they should have done, and they all died. That's what makes it terrifying. It's like another thing. Like, I would love to have a story where your character was, like, really smart, very observant, knew exactly, always prepared in any situation, and then dies in the end like, in a horror book.
Yeah.
Because that would be absolutely terrifying. Because, like,
she did everything. She did everything.
What? Just saying. I know that's upsetting, but that will also help your horror book be a lot better. Because that just bugs me. I'll be reading.
We should do a whole podcast just on horror.
We should.
Moving on. So that this podcast doesn't become a horror podcast.
Yes. Moving further.
How about getting away from scary stuff? Romances. What do you think what's a good setting for romance?
We said beaches, because there's always a beach scene.
Beaches.
Beaches. Freaking beaches.
Beaches with bikinis and
Yeah.
volleyball and guys with no shirts on and
beautiful water.
And apparently that's romantic.
Apparently.
Even though the sand is hot and it's really annoying, you get sunburned.
And it gets in your toes.
And it's just sand all up in your bad places. And it's just...
up in your bad places.
It's
yeah,
just annoying.
like,
But, romantic.
I don't really like the beach. Because, like, I don't really like sand. So, because, like, it's just annoying. So
I like going to the beach if you're, like, going to swim. If you're just going to sit, why?
Yeah, like,
what's the
my
difference?
apartment, like, we have our own, like, lake access for my apartment, and we have a beach, and it has a playground on it. And, like, I'll see people just, like, lounging in their bathing suits and trying to get a tan. I'm like, okay, that's cool and all. But there's, like, water. Do you know water helps you get a tan? Like, do you know that if you're wet, you're more likely to get sun exposure? Like, that'll help you. Go get in the water. Like, they'll be fully dry and nothing. And I'm just like, there's, like,
Whenever
a perfect light right there.
Whenever I tan, I always get too hot and I start sweating. So I usually end up going into the water anyway. So it's like...
exactly. Like, what is the point of going to the beach if you're not going to play in the water?
Duh. Anyway.
People will be like, I don't like lake water. I'm like, then don't tan at the beach. We all have, like, everyone has their own patio or balcony or whatever. Like, you have a perfectly good balcony that gets sun exposure. Good to go.
You can sit and read books, do something productive instead of just laying on some sand.
Go for a walk.
Right.
Anything. Whatever. But what do I know?
Anyway,
I don't go outside, so...
Tangent about beaches done. Closing the book on beaches.
I think, like, romance novels have a lot of beach scenes in it because, like, there's the sunset and it's really pretty and, like, it's a date or whatever. And then there's a lot of romance novels that have, like, summer
Yeah,
relationships.
usually it starts. It's usually like in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Or
usually starts with the
spring.
summer, and it's like a summer fling or whatever. And so you're on vacation to a beach, and you meet a guy. It's
It's
the beach.
exciting.
But like I also
He
said
didn't
that
have a
this.
shirt. Of course he loves
I
me.
mean, he was great. I also, I also like when we were discussing. I also said like cities and small towns seem to have a lot
Yeah.
of romance in them, and I think like with
It's like
small
the
towns,
opposite of horror.
yeah, it's like a nice way. Like in small towns, it's usually like someone who just recently moved in or whatever, and like they're interesting, kind of like I hate to reference Twilight in this way, but how in the beginning of Twilight, Bella moves to a small town and she becomes the object of everybody's fancy.
Yeah.
It's something new, especially in a small town. Something new happens. It's kind of exciting. I don't think they'll get as much attention as Bella did, but but in romance novels, everyone is pining for the main character, so
Yeah.
just how it is.
So it needs to be in like populated areas so that the main character has like 20 options.
Exactly. I mean, there needs to be a love quadrangle somewhere in there.
Pentangle?
Pentangle. Perfect.
Done.
Hexagon. I love-
Decadangle.
Decadangle. Oh, that sounds so bad.
That's
You wanna
not
see
a
my-
romance. That's a little
You-
further than romance.
Do you want to see my decadangle?
Sure.
Oh, that sounds exciting. I like math.
We should go to the beach and do math together. It'll be so romantic. We'll have their sun and like water.
Ooh, awesome.
Oh, is it hot in here?
I mean, we're at the beach, so it's probably just the beach.
It's always hot at the beach. Unless you go in the winter, then it's not.
Then, like, what's the point of going to it?
Oh my god. Let's do it. I'm not trying to say that all the girls in romance novels act like that. God.
But a lot of the time they are.
I mean, yeah.
Like,
Watch a chick flick.
one of the reasons why I love Bloodlines so much is because Sydney doesn't pick up on romantic cues at all because she's so awkward, and it's like the best thing. It's like so refreshing to have like a romance that is very not understood properly, and it's just really funny because Adrian is so romantic,
Yeah.
and Sydney is so logical
Not.
and not, and it's just like, oh my god, it's so funny,
The best.
so good, so good.
But yes.
Um,
So populated areas for romance,
yes,
whether it's a small population or a big population like a city,
Yeah.
needs to be populated,
yeah, it needs to be populated.
and it needs to have places where they can go on dates.
Yeah, that's like another. That's why cities I see a lot of the time because like cities have like museums, and museums are huge in romance.
They have the fancy restaurants.
Fancy restaurants, yep. They have stadiums.
A lot of them have beach access.
They do. Beaches, important. We talked about this.
Beaches! Exclamation point.
You need a beach scene if you want.
Look.
Ladies want to picture that man shirtless. Give it to them in detail.
What's the best way? Beaches.
Beaches. I mean, you could just do a pool, but pools are also very kid-filled and chlorine-filled, and there's usually a lot of screaming, and the lifeguards are
I
consistently
mean, that
blowing
if you're
whistles at
doing
you.
a romantic comedy, that could be cool.
That would be really funny. That would be quite ideal.
Indeed.
But if you're going full romance, just you better go all out.
Beach or no beach. Get this done.
Get it done.
Beaches. Anyway. So
Anyway.
yeah, that's for
Beaches.
romance.
That's romance.
How about some fantasy?
Okay, well, fantasy. I stated that it just needs to be a full country or a full continent of countries, and it needs to be set in like the Middle Ages,
So Lord of the Rings.
pretty much. I was just looking at my Lord of the Rings book. And I was like, that's like my favorite setting for like fantasy. That and like Harry Potter, but Harry Potter has like fantasy and real world in
It's
it.
like urban fantasy.
Yeah, it's like urban fantasy. Like for full on like proper fantasy,
Elves
Lord
and
of,
stuff.
yeah, Lord of the Rings is probably the best place to go for like a starting point of figuring it like what you want to do with it, because what J.R. Tolkien did was he wrote the history of his world first, and then The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings was just a snippet of a story within that world, and it's so cool. Like that is like the best way to write a fantasy is you write the world and you figure out the world and its history and all that stuff. Because then when like people are like going around, you can reference stuff a lot better. It's not just seems like it's out of nowhere. Like this
Yeah.
is how the world became the way it is. And it's just it was so good, so good, so good.
So, yeah, so with setting in fantasy, like, do you think, I know different fantasy novels have done, elves and dwarves differently, but do you think, like, dwarves, mountains? Like,
Yes.
do you think that's a must, or do you think that's just a trope?
I think I don't know because like I associate it with mountains because of Lord of the Rings and because of World of Warcraft. So it's just like it's just become like in my head that way. And I don't know, like I've never had somebody write it another way. So I
That
just
you've read?
yeah, that I've read. So I've never experienced dwarves in anything else besides a mountain and like
Same thing with dragons and
right.
gold.
Yeah. Like dragons are always in love with gold because it makes them feel nice on the inside.
On the inner parts.
On the inner parts. Why do you think Smaug just slept in the gold?
Because it was comfy.
Like you try laying on some gold. I guarantee you a crown is gonna poke you right in the back.
Ouch.
Yeah, right? Because there's always like some random crown just in there in like every treasure
I know,
chest.
no one's wearing it, it's just there.
It's just there.
Like, was
There's
there a country where there was a king, and they just took the crown and the whole country disappeared? Like,
right? There's always a crown, a scepter, and a shoe. And a string of pearls.
like
And a goblet. There's always a goblet.
Yep, and like a bunch of rubies for some reason.
Yeah,
Rubies
rubies.
and gold. Like, they go together.
They apparently look nice. The colors mesh well.
Gryffindor.
Yeah, that's what I was Hello.
So, now that we have that established, Gryffindor, solve all your problems.
Sorted.
Into Gryffindor. Anyway. Oh, if only. Anyway.
I would totally be Ravenclaw.
I've taken so many tests, I'm a Slytherin.
Yeah, I'm a Ravenclaw. Just yeah.
It's always between Slytherin and Ravenclaw. Like,
I get Ravenclaw like 9 times out of 10, but there's one time I got Hufflepuff, and I don't
I've
know
never
how.
gotten Hufflepuff.
I've gotten Hufflepuff, and I don't know how it happened, because like everything I clicked was not Hufflepuff.
Or so you thought, because you
I
are
guess.
a Hufflepuff.
Yes.
Hufflepuffs want to be more than they are, but they are just what they are.
They're good finders.
Oh,
I do.
it's very true.
I do find things very well.
Harry, I found something.
Yeah, you're great, Cedric.
What the hell is a Hufflepuff? Oh, God.
The only reason I'd really want to be a Hufflepuff is because their animal is a badger.
I know, they have the
Badgers.
best one.
And badgers are messed up.
I don't want to be Slytherin. They have dumb snakes.
Who wants to fucking snake? Like, I got the 2 houses with the coolest animals, a raven and a badger. Whenever someone, like, gives crap to Hufflepuffs, I just think about that. And I just know all this information about badgers, because badgers are amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm just, like, imagining what a Hufflepuff could do to you. Like,
they're actually like the assassins of all the
Right?
houses.
anyway.
What were we saying? Fantasy, right?
fantasy.
So yeah, a lot of fantasy takes place. Did you hear that?
Yeah. Steve made a cameo in our podcast. Oh my god. Just a moment of silence for Steve to do his thing.
He's playing Dark Souls right now.
Why is he singing?
Oh my god. Best podcast ever.
He sounds like he's dying.
I'll be back.
Okay.
We can hear you on the recording. What? We're recording right now. We can hear you. Me and Jeanette. Oh yeah. So you're on the podcast now. Just letting you know. Maybe a little bit. I love you. Anyway.
Anyway. Stuff.
What were we saying?
Fantasy.
Fantasy.
Fantasy. I'm gonna be singing that all day now.
It's awesome.
Uh,
I don't know if he made that up or if that's a video. I can't remember.
I don't know, but it was pretty great.
Anyway, fantasy.
Fantasy.
Oh god.
So I feel like with fantasy, the bigger the set is, the more real it feels, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's fantasy. Obviously, it's not going to actually be real, but like you want the reader to feel like they're there. So if the setting is big, it feels like they've been transported to this new world. And like I love Lord of the Rings because it's like this huge like journey all across like.
Yeah, you get to see a lot of the world.
A lot of it. And that's great. Even though it's just like a snippet in the history of Middle Earth, it still feels like it like takes up enough of the space to feel like it's like proper. Like it's just like you learn everything you can, but there's still stuff that you don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. That there's like extra, like you don't feel like you've learned everything and you can still learn stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like fantasies that have, like, they don't only give you information as you need it. There's more information to the world. Like, you could buy the Silmarillion, which is, like, the history of Middle-earth.
Yeah.
And there's so much extra stuff. Like, you learn how Sauron became a thing. You learn, like, how Middle-earth became a thing and how the Rings of Power happened and, like, all this extra stuff. And it's just like, why were these in the book? And it's because, like, it's not needed. It's not needed information. But it's still there, which is the...
Yeah, it still exists.
Yeah.
Somewhere in his mind. So
yeah.
That when you're writing
mm-hmm.
it, you know that this happened. So then any connections you make.
Yeah.
In other books will fit.
Exactly. Because you have if you don't know the history of your world, it's very easy to contradict stuff that's happening when you write it as you need it. So like it's better to write like the world. And then write your story. Like I love that it's like it's a huge world and it's like just a small little thing.
Just a tiny bit.
Just a tiny bit.
All this of this.
Yeah.
This of this.
And like that, it works so well in that world. So that is a good place to start with setting. Is to write your world.
Where you start.
Yeah.
Get
Like
on it.
like write the history of your fantasy cuz like if it's a fantasy, it's an entirely new thing.
Yeah.
So like
So
if
no
you
one
wanted to
knows what you're talking about
yeah,
if you
exactly.
don't already know.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you want to make it feel believable and real, you need to have all of the history to back it up. Like you need to have like all of that stuff. Like he never, not once in Lord of the Rings, explains how Sauron gained power and like became the big general that he was.
Yeah.
It's just known that he is terrifying, he is big, and he's evil. And that's it. That's all you know of Sauron. You don't learn about his history unless you buy the Silmarillion, which is like that's all you needed. All you needed to know was that Sauron is bad,
He's the bad guy, these are good guys. Go.
and that's it. Like you learn bits and pieces of the world through it, but you don't really learn about Sauron's past, and you don't learn that Sauron is actually a god, and it's terrifying. Like once you learn that, the books come even more terrifying. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
What?
So much whatting.
What? Yeah. So yeah, that's how I feel about fantasy setting. Fantasy.
Indeed. He's still going. Anyway. So what I have left is mystery and then YA settings.
Okay. In mystery, I feel like a lot of them take place in old mansions.
Old mansions?
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of rich people involved in mysteries.
probably. Because it's usually like a detective who's been hired and to figure out stuff. Or my
Yeah.
favorite, everyone's at a dinner party and then someone dies. Gotta figure out
Clue.
who it is. It's Clue! But they like a lot of people have written novels that way as well, where
Yeah.
like but he's at like a dinner party and then someone dies and I gotta
Oh,
figure it
yeah,
out.
I can't remember what it was. There's a lot of mysteries are like someone dies and in their will is like a treasure hunt or something and only the
Right.
most worthy in the family's gonna find
Jesus.
it.
I would kill him again. He's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Well, yeah, but then it's like he leaves clues and stuff and it's like a mystery to figure out where the treasure is, what the treasure is, stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. You find the treasure. Turns out it's like the treasure of happiness. It's like an empty box.
It's like a Pez dispenser and it's like, be happy.
Again, kill the dude
And then
again.
there's no Pez in it, it's just empty. It's just the dispenser. Be happy. Know that life won't always give you what you want.
How much of a letdown would that be? Like, oh well, at
Just
least
kill
I got.
myself. I quit my job for this.
I mean, at least I got Pez. Just no Pez. Just no Pez.
I know, like it's like you and like
Just
your,
start punching the dead body.
it's like you and your best friend. You're like, well, and it's like the funny best friend. He's like, well, at least you got some Pez. You click it, nothing. You just look at each other. You start crying. Oh, we should write that.
That sounds fun.
Sounds great. So yeah, so for mysteries, I don't think the setting matters too much.
I think it's like how you write the mystery is more important. I
The
think
plot is very important in mysteries.
the setting can just add to the plot and add to the
Yeah.
feel of it.
Depending on the mystery, is if it's like a murder mystery, then like kind of goes along with like horror type stuff with isolation and people not helping you, stuff
You need-
like that.
One, yeah.
If it's just like a treasure hunt mystery, it might even be kind of a comedy.
Yeah. I love it when comedy is slipped into mysteries.
So,
It's-
what other type of mysteries are there? Like Nancy Drew, small town,
Yeah, like she goes all over the place.
small
so
town girl just traveling, travel mysteries.
using her wits and her super sleuthing abilities.
So
to-
yeah, mystery is more about plot than setting. So
Yeah.
if you're writing a mystery, keep that in mind.
Yeah, like with a mystery, it's kind of like the opposite of fantasy. You want your plot figured out, and then your setting can basically add to it, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, you want to figure out what the mystery is, like what happened, and like get some like basic clues figured out, and then
the twist.
Yeah, the twist. You got to make sure you have the twist. But that's when really you start getting into what your setting will be because like you want to use the setting to your advantage to be able to like make those clues feel not as out of place essentially. So like if someone drops something in like a basket or whatever, what setting are you in to make it so that a basket is there?
Yeah, exactly.
So like using your clues, like using the clues that you want your character to find can help define your setting a bit better. So yeah, that's yeah,
That's
setting.
mystery.
That's mystery.
So then, and then in a lot of YA novels, I've noticed that the main character or characters go to a boarding school. And, or not necessarily a boarding school, but a place where there's just a bunch of kids and no parents. I think that's the key.
Yeah, like my favorite boarding school novel is Looking for Alaska by John Green. Because there's a lot that happens. Go back into the thing. Sorry. Please don't be mad. Anyway. There's like I think a lot of it is set in a boarding school because it's young adult is a lot of a coming of age story.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of young adult is that. And so you need a lot of kids or teenagers or whatever because like for most people your school life defines a lot of what you become in your adult life.
Yeah.
So the more people are there to shape you, the better you'll have. And like Looking for Alaska, I think is the only novel I've read where the faculty doesn't like all of the faculty doesn't hate the main character.
Yeah, there's a lot of that goes around too.
Like a lot of the faculty just dislikes the main character for some weird reason that I don't understand because like they're teachers and
Snape, we're looking at you.
like in my novel Imagining Reality, I do kind of the exact opposite where of like most boarding school YAs where Riley is like the favorite of most of the faculty because her dad is the headmaster. The only person she doesn't get along with well is her English teacher because she butts heads with her English teacher. But they understand each other.
They have a banter.
Yeah, they have a banter. But then all of the students dislike her because she doesn't fit into one single group because there's like the cliques of like because the way that my boarding school is set up in that novel is there's the people who have money and are basically able to go there because their parents they can afford it, and there's the scholarship kids who got there because they worked their butts off. And Riley doesn't fit into either of those groups because she's only there because her dad runs the school. Mm-hmm. So like she's not considered part of those groups, and like both those groups like hate each other, and then they hate her. Yeah. So like it's like. And like she goes to college level courses and she finds herself in that college. Like she understands herself there more so than she understands it at high school, which is where most coming of age novels are set in place. Yeah. Which is awful because high school is not fun.
No.
No.
I didn't like high school.
Yeah. It wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't like it was terrible. It was just. It just didn't teach me how to use my English words.
I mean, clearly. Can you not tell?
Yeah, it was just sort of boring.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like, I guess I'm here today.
I guess I'll spend 8 hours of my day here. And then spend 2 hours in band practice afterwards, and then go home and do the mountain of homework that I have to do.
See, that's why I quit band. What? I didn't really mind practices. I like practices. I didn't like the teacher. Never mind. We're not going to talk about that.
Not gonna get into it.
Boarding schools, I think it's because there's no parents. So it's like with Harry Potter, like there's a lot of time just with like Ron, Hermione, and Harry are just together. Like there's no, they don't have to do chores.
Yeah.
They don't have to wash the dishes after dinner.
Yeah, like, so there's no like home requirements for you to do.
Yeah.
So it makes it so that the focus is about the characters and not about what they have to do with their life.
Yes, and then they have this freedom to make the mistakes without having all the rules from the parents. They
Right.
just have regular school rules. So
Yeah.
then they end up getting into trouble.
Yeah, that's what
Stuff
they
happens.
do. If you haven't read the books, where have you been?
Who are you? What are you?
What are you?
Are you a badger?
Probably.
Dear God.
Badgers can't read. That's like one of the things they can't do.
No, my concern is that badgers are watching this podcast.
That is very concerning. But yeah, there's a lot that are set, like most young adult novels are set in high school because that's usually the age
That's
of,
their age range.
yeah. And I think, like I said, it's like, it's coming of age, and like, school is where you basically figure out your life, figure out like who you're gonna be in the future and like stuff like that, which is really awful because my favorite post I've ever seen on Tumblr is like 5 minutes ago I wasn't allowed to go to the bathroom without asking it. Now you want me to figure out what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Exactly.
Like, it's like that huge gap is just like I didn't figure out like really what I wanted to do until I got to college. And
Yeah.
they just start like your senior year of high school, they just yell at you to figure out.
You have to get your applications in. You gotta take all your tests so that you can actually get into a college.
Yeah.
Da, da, da. And then because like I went into college to do film.
Mhm.
Not doing that anymore.
It's not. Nope. Like I started college going into music ed, and then I switched to English because like pretty much almost the exact opposite of music ed, but whatever. Like, and I spent a year in high school doing AP music theory and then 2 years of college doing music theory to just throw it away.
Because they're like, do it. You gotta choose. You gotta do something now.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Like, that's why I like novels that are young adult that are starting to be set in college time, because I feel like that is the moment
That's when you actually
like. I
are
think
able to follow through.
Yeah. I think it's set in boarding school is because there's more freedom in boarding school. Like
There's more
you
freedom
have,
for you to find that decision.
yeah, you're the closest to college you can get at like 17 years
While
of
you're
age.
17.
Yeah. Because like in college you're away from your parents for the first time. A lot of kids are away from their parents for the first time. They meet new people with new backgrounds and crazy things, and like that's boarding school essentially.
Experimentation.
Yeah. You're beer. But yeah,
Bad
that
influences.
like when you're
The weed.
writing calm down.
All that stuff is really annoying. Don't do it.
But it really just messes with you more so than helps you. Although weed can be a great stress reliever. So
But it smells bad.
that too.
It tastes
That
bad.
That's the biggest thing. Plus I have asthma, so I can't inhale. So
And I hate smoke, so I
Yeah.
don't do it. Smoke makes me cough and like die, so any type of smoke. Camping sucks, guys. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what this whole podcast is about.
That's what camping sucks. You could be immediately thrust into a horror novel
Or a mystery.
or mystery. You could lose your
Where
phone.
did my socks go, guys?
Who ate the last granola bar?
I was saving the half that had the little raisins in it for me.
'Cause I'm the only one who likes raisins. So who ate it? Well, if you're the only one who
Badgers!
likes raisins, then it was probably you.
It was the badger.
It's the badger. But yeah, that's what I think it is. That's what I think it is because, like, obviously, if you want to do a younger audience and a younger character, you can't do college. But boarding school,
Almost.
almost there.
Bam.
But yeah, I really like the college ones because it feels more like real life, I guess, because like that is when like I figured out what I wanted to do with my life, and that was when I really came of age. Not as much in high school. And like I think like it's like people are starting to realize that, but the high school stuff is still really popular because,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because even if you're just doing like a romance in high school, like when you get to college, the relationship
That's
probably
that's
isn't
pretty
gonna
much what I think
last.
now. Every time I read like a novel, it's like a high school romance. I'm just like, you're not gonna
You
last.
guys are so cute together, but you're still like
Probably
16.
you're 16. You're probably going to grow up and realize you don't want to do the stuff that you say you're doing right now. And then you're probably going to break up because you want to go to two different colleges. And you're like, long distance can work. And sometimes it does. And a lot of the times it doesn't.
Long distance isn't good.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
But yeah, that's like essentially what I think now. Like more relationships are being born out of college romances than high school romances. Like I only have like I think one friend who I know of is still with his high school sweetheart.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle are that
Yeah.
way.
Like I don't remember I don't I at least I
No,
can't
my
think of.
parents met when they were like training, doing. I think they were in classes in the Navy,
Mm,
some sort of classes. I can't remember what type of classes. It was some college thing.
yeah.
And my grandparents, they were high school, but like 19.
Mm,
It was like,
around yeah.
yeah, it was 18, 19. It was like the
Yeah.
end of high school.
Yeah. Like my parents met when they had my brother when my mom was 20.
Hey,
So
that's when they had
met
me.
so like that's like college time. Like
Yeah.
and it's just like I don't want to think of these high school kids like when I'm reading a novel, these high school kids just like being happy together forever. And because it just doesn't make sense. Like the only real high school relationships that I felt were going to be together were the Harry Potter relationships because they
Because
didn't feel
that was way more than school. That was life and death.
that was like yeah, that was like and so like it's like entirely different feel to it
Yeah.
because it's not just like high school. It's a wizarding school. Yeah, I know. My hand gestures are just well, my Harry Potter books are right there, so I'm like gesturing towards them
Violently, like, ah! Why don't
Like-
you exist for real?
like they were 17 when like all of the craziness of Hogwarts went down, and like that makes you grow up really fast. So like it didn't feel like it was a high school novel, especially since the seventh book was not set at Hogwarts at all.
Yeah.
So it was just
Spoiler
it just-
alert.
spoilers. If you haven't read or seen,
God.
crazy
Living
people.
under rocks.
Yeah. And like that also goes for Vampire Academy because Rose is like super young when she's like in love with Dimitri, but like Blood Promise doesn't like the fourth book doesn't even take place at the school anymore. Like at the end of Shadowkiss, they're pretty much graduating, so the rest of the books are them on their own figuring life out. So I don't feel like those relationships will end. I feel like those ones fit really well together. Like I root for
Again,
them essentially.
Life and death.
Yeah, life and death, and like
Life after death.
life, yeah, and then coming back to life, and then
Complications. Magic, guys. Magic.
Magic. hmm. But yeah, and like I wish I could talk about The Fault in Our Stars, but I don't want to give away the ending.
Don't talk. I haven't finished. You haven't seen anything.
But, like I really love Gus and Hazel because like I think they would be together forever, and like they're not in high school anymore because of their cancer. So like it's not set in high school. It's set in they're forced to grow up really fast because of their disability and their disease and everything. So they don't feel like they're the high
Yeah,
school.
there's a lot of like more recent books that are coming out that are like going beyond the whole high school
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Like, when YA first started,
That was
high school.
yeah. It was just high school.
It was high school. Like Breakfast Club, high school.
Yeah.
That's all like YA was. It was just Breakfast Club.
Mhm.
Like,
A bunch of
just
random
with
people
like
thrown.
some had vampires in it. Some it was like just romance. Some.
Like I think if you're gonna do young adult romance, to take it out of high school, because it won't feel as real.
But then it's a summer romance.
Well, you could do college. That's technically young adult. But it just like now reading like a high school young adult romance, it just doesn't feel as real to me.
Well, that might
Like
just be us.
that could just be us. It could be true. Like I'm
Because
they're
when you're that age, a lot
yeah,
of girls want a boyfriend.
exactly. It's like more relatable when you're that age. Like
I
it
did
depends.
want a
I guess it's
boyfriend.
kind of also your target audience as well. Like if you want to write a novel for college kids, write it in college. If you want to write it for high school kids, write it in high school. Give the high school kids hope because high school sucks. A
Or,
lot.
just destroy the high school like in Buffy.
You do that. Don't make all of the teachers hate the main character because that just bugs me.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Unless
Why?
they're like that much of a delinquent.
Yeah. And usually they're not. Usually they're just really nice and they're
They're
really
just
quiet.
awkward.
Yeah. And we're like, why do these people hate them so much? Yeah, it's just
So yeah, setting.
with young adult, I think the setting is based on like who your target audience, who you want your target audience to be. Because if you want it, because like for us to read high school novels, it's like very not realistic to us because we're older and we know like that relationship probably isn't gonna last. They're probably gonna get to college and realize that they don't want to do art anymore and yada yada yada. So like,
I would just want to dance.
I just want to dance. Just let me dance. But yeah, like that's your like for high school kids, totally do it in high school because like
That's
like I
their
said,
life.
that's their life. That's all they know currently is that high school is high school and that they need hope to get through high school. Cause
At least my high school doesn't have a giant monster in it.
positive thinking.
Ding. That's what
Your
we're here
school
for.
wasn't built on a hellhole. Positive thinking.
Yeah. So anyway, to conclude part 1 of our setting podcast, the setting really depends on what genre you're going for, because the setting is going to set up the feel based on that genre. So if it's horror or mystery and you need like suspense, you need the setting to pretty much provide that. And I know a lot of some people say, characters can do everything. No.
No.
Setting.
The setting can do everything, okay?
Setting can do everything. I mean, you still need good characters, but the setting, if you have a really good setting, sometimes dumb characters feel alright.
Yeah, like you can get through the shitty characters because the
As long
setting.
as the world
Yeah.
is good.
The world.
So meaty.
Be excellent to each other.
Body on, dudes! Oh, that's another thing. If you're doing historical fiction, just research a lot about wherever it's taking place, please.
Oh.
Please.
And make sure you make
Please.
Abraham Lincoln really cool.
I wish I had a hat right now.
Yeah. Like either he's a vampire hunter or he's being shoved into a phone booth because two dudes from the 80s were like, hey, we need you right now.
And he's okay with it.
Yeah, he's cool with it. And he decided to be excellent to all people. That's what Abraham Lincoln does. And if you need Genghis Khan, reel him in with a Twinkie.
You learn things on this podcast. It's an educational experience.
Like, proper thing that you will need in your life. Like, if you manage to get a time-traveling phone booth.
No, Doctor Who, get out of here.
That's a police box.
I know, but some people think it is a phone box. We need to correct people. That's what I'm saying.
On it. I don't know.
There's a phone on it.
I know there's a phone on it, but like, ugh.
A lot of people are like, what's he doing in a phone with him? Like, you don't know anything. Get out of my life.
I don't need you in my life right now, okay? You don't need that kind of
And
people.
then we're not
in life.
friends anymore. And then my list of friends goes down to 1 again.
It's me.
Don't you feel special?
Like, speaking of having no friends, me and Joey make the joke that we have no friends all the time. Like, we just, like, people are like, well, why don't you want to come out? Because we have no friends. And, like, we'll just make the joke. And, like, he invited my friend Julia over to just play board games. And, like, to be officially our friend and actually hang out with us more often than just at work. And, like, I was like, you can't do that. Now I can't say that we have no friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
My only friend lives halfway across the country. Okay, so yeah, that's you.
If you were wondering why we were doing this on Skype, that's why.
Now you know.
Anyway, so yeah,
It's
that's part one of setting. Next time we're going to talk about how to use different elements of setting to create the feelings for the genre that you're going to be writing. So
we discussed it a little bit during this, but
we're gonna go over stuff, and it's gonna be more solidified and
that's what I was gonna
calcified and
calcified.
So stonified.
Calcifer? Calcifer's gonna be there
and cemented into your brain places. So yeah,
into our brain places.
Yeah, because we're talking about setting.
I thought you were going for a high five there, and I got really excited.
Well, I can't do a high five if you're next to me. Here. Other side. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll see how that looks.
That hurt my shoulder.
Anyway, so, before we sign off, where can they find more about you?
I have a Tumblr. It's called Holy Crap a Ghost. All caps. And then I have another YouTube channel. It's called Holy Hat Adventures, and I play games and oftentimes with my boyfriend. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I have a Twitter, but I don't use it. So just don't.
Why did you even mention it?
Just don't. Like you'll find me, and then you'll follow me, and then you'll never hear anything from me ever.
But thanks for following.
Yeah, it's nice of you.
Feels nice inside, even though I'll never see it. I'll know in my heart.
Where can they find you?
I am Ekronni, Ekronnie, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Tumblr, on Twitter, on Instagram.
Oh yeah, I have an Instagram as well.
You do?
Yeah.
Am I following you?
No.
I should do that after the show.
Yeah, you should do that. But mine is also Holy Crap a Ghost. I'm pretty much Holy Crap a Ghosted everywhere.
Holy crap.
A ghost.
Oh.
Oh.
So yes. So, be excellent to each other.
This is the main thing you should take away from this podcast today.
Be excellent to each other and chew pens whenever you can.
Or click them. Like I said, we don't discriminate.
If you want to marry a pen, who are we to say no? Like,
do what you want to do, man. It's your life.
Pens are like just so wonderful, and this one's blue with bite marks all over it. Anyway.
Are you okay? I was scared you were gonna start making out with it for a second there.
I can't make out with something I bite all the time.
Okay.
I could try, but I don't think they want to see that.
Probably not.
I'll try it off camera. I'll tweet about it.
I'll tweet about it.
Anyway.
Any hoozle.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll see you next week on Tuesday. We're doing this on Tuesdays. It's like a Tuesday thing.
It's like a Tuesday thing.
Tuesday thing.
Tuesday. It's like we're from Canada or something.
But not.
Except maybe more like Minnesota. Alaska. I don't know. I don't know much about Alaska. I know about as much about Alaska because my brother lived there, but...
There's moose.
I know there's moose. My brother had a moose stalker.
Yep.
I am aware of the moose. There's also 30 days of like certain months that there'll just no sun, and then sometimes there'll be just only sun. So that's nice.
We should go now.
Okay.
Okay, bye.